Welcome to the beautiful Oconomowoc Art Center. We're here for the 2017-18 Chatfield Award presentation. The Oconomowoc Chamber Orchestra presents this award annually to those people in our community who reach out in special ways and help the arts and the community grow. This year we present the award to Dave and Betty Reul. Dave and Betty have done so many things. We have special guests who help share some of the things that they have done in our community. Here we go. We welcome Dr. John Koehn, former Director of Instruction at the Oconomowoc Area Schools, a principal of our schools, and also a teacher. Here's John.
Well, I first met Dave in 1953. That's 65 years ago at the old Milwaukee State Teachers College. It is now known as UWM. But at that time, both Dave and I had made a decision that we wanted to be teachers. And that's where I ran into Dave. And more specifically, Dave not only wanted to be a teacher, but he wanted to be a music teacher. After we both graduated, there was a stint in the military where I went to Fort Benning, and I'm not sure I know where Dave went. But upon completing our military services, our paths crossed again. These paths with becoming teachers in the Oconomowoc school system back in 1960. I think Dave came to the Oconomowoc school system in 1959. So we go back quite a few years. The most memorable events that I recall with Dave and myself when I was principal of the junior high had to do with a school that was overcrowded, 1,300 kids in a building meant for 850. And as you would imagine, having that many early adolescents together, there were some interesting and some trying days. And I remember most vividly that on those days when things were really going wrong and I needed to have some kind of respite to get away from all of the things that were happening, I would trot down to the rehearsal room where Dave's band would be practicing. And it was the most relaxing and most invigorating experience to see David, as a master in art of teaching, motivating children to perform at the highest level that they could possibly perform, and that I could go back and in a relaxed state and continue to do my job. So I found myself frequently down there in the band room listening to these marvelous students playing this beautiful music directed by Dave and his commitment to music and the arts. There was one other incident, I don't know if Dave really remembers this, but it had to do with a cloudburst that occurred one day that caused the flooding of the band room. I can remember going down, looking at the damage. There were drums floating around the room, and the custodian, Mr. Schuyler, came to me and said, "John, what do I do with all this water?" I said, "Eli, you go down to the Laurelbergs and rent a pump and pump that water out through the window." So he went down, and about 2 hours later he came in my office. He said, "John, I don't know what I'm doing." He said, "I've been pumping that water for the last 2 hours and it hasn't gone down an inch." And I said, "Eli, let's go down and see what the problem is." So we went down and we looked, and what we discovered was where the pipe came out of a window to get the water out of there, Some of the kids had taken that pipe and ran it through another window so that they were recycling the water without. I want to, to this day, know who those kids were that put that pipe in there. I want to give them a creativity award because this was one of the most clever things, but poor Eli, he was just totally frustrated with why didn't that water go down. Earlier I mentioned that David made a decision that he wanted to be a teacher, and he matched that decision by making a commitment to be the best teacher that could ever possibly have been. And he continues to be a teacher in his current events. He made another big decision just shortly after college that he wanted to be married to this wonderful person called Betty. And I have had the opportunity and pleasure of observing Betty as someone who is very active in this community, especially supporting the arts. She has been involved heavily with the annual Arts Festival, which has an international reputation. And she also is very active in various volunteer activities and groups, such as the Fitness Center and also many other groups that have community welfare. In addition to all their volunteer work, they have developed a standing reputation of doing the memorial, being soloists for the annual Memorial Day celebration, as well as the annual Veterans Day celebrations throughout the community. I have a letter that turned up that I wrote 17 years ago talking about Dave's accomplishments and skills as a teacher. This was submitted to the Wisconsin Music Educators Association, where they recognize him as the Distinguished Service Award. Some of the things I mentioned in the letter, which I'd just like to point out to you, is Dave's unique ability to motivate students to perform to their greatest capacity. In fact, and I think I mentioned it earlier, that I would, when I became frustrated and uptight in my job, I found myself wandering down to the music room and listened to this wonderful music being taught by this highly skilled teacher called Dave Reul. Also in this, Dave has been active in the community in many, many ways, supporting the arts. I mentioned the annual art festival where he was a significant contributor, along with Betty, to the success of this particular event that's gone on for many years and has developed an international reputation for supporting strongly the arts of in Oconomowoc. One other thing I'd like to mention is Dave is probably one of the 3 top teachers I have known in my career. And I have known many, many teachers throughout the 50-some years that I've been involved with both public and private education. And so what I'm saying, what I just explained to you today is exactly what I talked about 17 years ago. And Dave, in talking to Betty one day, I asked if Dave was home, and Betty said to me, you know, Dave is teaching his students. And I said, what do you mean he's teaching his? Oh, he continues to teach even to this day. And what Betty said to me made such an impression. He said, when Dave left today, he told me to go teach, and I love teaching these kids. And that summarizes the contents of this letter. This letter is as valid today as it was 17 years ago. Another area where Dave and my paths crossed each other had to do with an effort called PACE. PACE stands for Performing Arts Center Enhancements. We were co-chairs in raising $500,000 to add enhancements that were not included in the original high school auditorium concept.
Welcome. I'm Michael Duncan, Director of the Oconomowoc Arts Center. It's my pleasure today to introduce Betty and Dave Reul, who've been nominated this year as our second annual recipients of the Chatfield Award. Thank you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor.
Well, in our experience, you've been involved on so many levels with the Arts Center over the years. And I think a lot of people, after we've been around for 10 years for the new Arts Center, a lot of folks don't remember so much what happened before we even got to the Arts Center and that original Oconomowoc Arts Council.
The Oconomowoc Performing Arts Council.
It might be kind of interesting for people to remember some of those earlier days of what all that work that went into getting us to this point so that we could get that Arts Center started and moving to what we have now.
It was the Oconomowoc Performing Arts Council, and we decided that there really needed to be some awareness in the community for the need of an auditorium. So we formed a committee. I think there were 9 of us, and we determined that since we had such a rich heritage of Oconomowoc High School graduates who are now professionals in the arts world, that we would do a series of performances. And I think we originally intended to do 3 years. We got funding from the Rotary, and I think a little from the Oconomowoc Area Foundation, yes.
That was to kick things off.
To get us going.
When we generated
Yes.
our own funds.
But it was so successful, and we found that we had so many graduates. I think we had a list of 70.
I don't know if I'm exactly. I know that our concert series, which was supposed to be 3 concerts a year, stretched to 5, and then we went for, I think, a total of over 25 concerts by kids that had graduated here, but now are either professional or semi-professional, which is, you know, an incredible amount of data for our high school and the quality of the music program. And we're doing music and arts.
We did. We started that committee in 2003, and then in 2008 we decided that since the Art Center was now going to happen, we didn't need to continue. So we then had been so successful that we donated the Charles Sticks painting. We did the furnishings in the lobby. We did the green room, and we did a sizable financial gift to the OPEF.
Yeah. I'd like to explain a little bit more. That was a win-win-win because what we had for a performance facility was really lacking. We needed something different, and so we took the small ensemble, the soloists and so forth, out to area churches. And the church venue was great for a soloist. And pointing out the fact to the audiences that we need a facility that, you know, that is better than what we've got right now, which was so overloaded at the time. So it was really a win-win-win. The community won because these people were, you know, being cited as being excellent. They had the Arts Council paid them $1,000 to come and do a recital and go into the schools. So that was a good idea. And we didn't have any trouble finding people to sponsor the $1,000. In fact, people, when this all came to an end, finally, we still had people that were willing to pay another $1,000. So it was never a problem.
Well, and interestingly enough, we didn't intend for it to be a profitable thing.
Yeah.
But obviously, it was a profitable thing because we had a number of ways of supporting the Art Center when it was built.
Now, what were some of the facilities that you performed those? Was it local churches?
Yes.
Or
Churches around, yes.
Mostly churches.
And we paid a fee to the church. They were happy to have us. So I can't remember all of them distinctly which churches there were, but just almost
Most of the community churches.
yes. And it worked so well.
It was an interesting thing because that was kind of the turning point in the community. The conversation evolved from if we build an art center to when we build an art center.
Exactly.
And interestingly enough, when Pat Neudecker and the school board started going into the community to talk about the referendum, It was only for the 2 intermediate schools. And at that point, the community said, what about an art center? What about a field house? And so some of that momentum had helped because people were realizing the need.
It was serendipity at that point because the facilities were needed, and it just seemed like a position of the moon and the stars was right to have that referendum. Pat Neudecker made the comment at one time about this old path. She said, that is the best PR that we on the school board have ever seen, because the fact that everybody appreciated it, it was such a win-win. So
Well, the audiences were given because it was the performer's paper boy or their babysitter or their student, or everybody loved having those graduates back in the community to perform.
so it was really.
And we also, we had 3 purposes when we started OPEC. One was to bring those students back to perform. The other was to interact with the students, which they all did. And the other was to create the awareness for the need for an auditorium.
Yeah, we met all 3 goals.
And here we are 10 years later in the 10th anniversary season after all that was put together. And it's interesting, I should add too, that at the time I remember getting the mailing list from both of you. It was right around 650 names, give or take. Well, now we're just over 13,000 names on our mailing list, over 4,000 on our email list. And now you've added social media and Facebook and all those things that we didn't have 10 years ago. And we have a lot of people who follow us regularly on those things too. So this whole momentum that you started has just blossomed. And then I should also say, it's not just Economont in our immediate area.
Yeah.
If you look at where our patrons come from, depending on the event, we have people from Milwaukee, Madison. We even had people come in from Chicago to see the Michael Perry show last January, because this was the closest that show was going to be. It doesn't happen very often, but it's great to know that we've got folks that far away who follow certain artists or programs or whatever, and if we bring them here, they're willing to make the drive to come see us. So.
Well, and I do need to interject that thanks to you, when it came time, Pat Neudecker obviously was wise in knowing that we needed a full-time managing director for this facility, which not all school districts would probably acknowledge. So we had 52 applicants from all over the country for that position. David was on the committee that reviewed all of the applicants, all of the resumes, and I was on the committee that hired you. And it was wonderful. It was like God sent Michael Duncan. It was just great, and you've done a super job.
So where do I send the check for you? Thank you for that. Well, it's been a great 10 years, and I think it's clearly been a great merging of the community and the school district. And I think we don't find as many opportunities, I think, as the school district should, to look out and reach out to our community. And what the mission has been here as far as keeping our community engaged and involved, and making sure that we have the educational needs that the kids have for their educational, their performances, whatever it might be. It's been a great marriage. It's a little bit of juggling now because our schedule is so tight these days, which is good because we're using this space all the time now. But it's working. I mean, we can see that in our kids. We can see it in our staff. There's just so many things going well with the district and the community.
Serendipity.
Yeah, it is.
It is
It really
very much
is.
so.
And we are. I should also say that a lot of different school districts who are either have a PAC or they're looking to build one, they'll come here and they'll do a walkthrough. Not that they build the same building necessarily, but the thing they're interested in most is how do you make this work? And they want to emulate the things that are positive about what we can do to see if they can take that to their community. And I've had Germantown, Monaco, Slinger is now looking at a PAC. A lot of these groups are coming in, and we're actually going out and meeting with their school boards and giving them information on how to do rentals, how to bring the community in, how to engage. So one of the nice things about Economont is the Art Center has been kind of a beacon, I think, across the state as a way that it works. Not everybody do the same thing, but that's okay.
Some of the very early things that happened that perhaps community members now would not know or be aware of or remember, the Festival of the Arts gave us melody out front. The 3 service clubs did the plaza. The Master Gardeners got the gardens approved so that we have volunteer help to keep the gardens up. It is a community involvement, and I think a lot of those things happened up front, and we don't really know anymore how they came about in many instances.
One of these days I'll have to write everything down, because most of it's living up here, so I need to make sure that there's a manual or something in case I get hit by a bus tomorrow or something. That's just kind of the way it is. I mean, it's just grown and grown. And we've had so many wonderful opportunities with the Art Center.
Well, thanks to you.
Well, and a lot of it is for folks like yourselves.
Lots of
you've
folks.
done.
Lots of folks.
Yeah. Well, it is. It takes a lot of work, though, to make it work. It really does. And it's been such a great interaction.
Very good. So very good.
Yeah,
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. What a community asset.
There's a nice ending.
You bet.
And you only wanted 30 seconds.
The Charles Dix painting is a gift from OPEC. OPEC was the group that was founded in 2003 to bring Oconomowoc graduates who are now professionals in the arts back to perform for the community. One of the artists that we engaged was Charles Dix. Charles Dix was an Oconomowoc graduate and a nationally known artist, and he was thrilled to pieces to have us display. I think we had 30 of his pieces.
It was a beautiful display. It was out at Olympium.
Right.
That was an incredible thing. Now, the impact of his art, a lot of people have never quite realized, within the context of modern art. I think there was a dimension to that just struck both Betty and I, because we have, how many, 4 or 5 of these things in our house. It was just really something that we really appreciated. And then the idea came to one of the paintings that was on that show, this one behind us, to get that and donate it to the high school.
Actually, it's, I think I recall, we did spend time with Charles Dix at his house choosing all of the art pieces that were going to be in the show, and we usually gave the artist that was performing an honorarium. But we decided that with Charles Dix, we would much rather have one of his pieces of art. And so Charles actually chose this piece as the piece that he would like to be in the lobby of the auditorium, which at that point was not a for sure thing. But, so this was chosen by Charles to come here. And interestingly enough, I think it was probably within 6 months after his show that Charles passed. So we were very happy that we had done that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful piece. Very indicative of the kind of art that was here way back when Charles was a student. I don't even remember those, it was before I came. I think he graduated in the early 50s.
There's an article on
Yeah,
the
there's
wall.
an article on the wall.
Interestingly enough, too, I recall a story that Tom Snyder told about speaking with the manager of the Art Center in Milwaukee and asked the manager who he would guess would be the most prolific, probably the best Wisconsin artist. And he said, to be the best Wisconsin artist, it would mean it would have to be a very prolific artist, which Charles was. Many, many, many pieces, and have many styles, which he had. So he was very well known, very well respected.
We were really honored to have the piece here as a symbol of this kind of art.
Great. How about any Tom Snyder stories? We did the tribute to him last year, but...
How much time do you have?
Wait, how about maybe 2 choice stories about Tom?
Well, I think interestingly enough, we should probably mention the OPEC committee, which was so instrumental in doing all of those high school graduate concerts that we did. Try to remember, we had Tom Snyder, Bill Lamb, Mary Steinke, Gabe Roadhouse, Mary Jo Newberg, Bob Duffy, Dave, me, and we had, who else?
Oh, Mary Steinke. Did you mention
I
Mary?
mentioned Mary,
Okay.
but it was Doris Holland,
Oh, yes, that's correct.
who passed
Yes,
away.
yeah.
Yes. It was a great, great committee.
Tom was always, he always had great ideas. And Ellen Stroman, you forgot about her.
Ellen Stroman, yes, yes.
And so we would always have to have a party, you know, and Tom would, Tom would say, well, you're going to have alcohol. Well, there were several members of our distinguished committee that said, no alcohol. And so that was kind of a put down for Tom, because Tom always felt more is better.
Oh, Tom was always party.
Right.
No.
You need to go out and buy these elaborate gifts and hand them out for everybody too. He was a guy who was just generous from the word go.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was a
Always-
great committee,
yeah,
very,
that
very.
was- one didn't know, the other one did. That was great.
The committee was a prime example of when you want something done, you ask the busiest people. They really were all busy, but very active in that group.
Right. So other than that, Tom's stories, well, you just get him started on one, and look at your watch, and then as it went along, you could steer it if you asked the question in a different direction. Otherwise, it would rattle. That was Tom, you know, and always interesting. You
Spinning
think,
stories.
goodness
Yeah.
sakes, man, could he have done all of that? But he did. Yeah. So he was a good choice for that first award for Chatfield.
Very good, yep,
So we're honored to be having our name next to his, aren't we?
for sure.
That's true. Spent a lot of hours with that man and all of his friends.
So how is it that we find you in music and the arts? Can you tell us a little bit about your, you know, you were in bands, so what your primary instruments, how you two met, how it is we find you in Oconomowoc?
Well, we came to Oconomowoc in 1958. Because I was interviewing for a high school band job that I found out once I got to school here that there was none. And I was more or less coerced into taking the elementary vocal music job because they wanted, Mr. Anderson wanted a man rather than a woman. He thought kids should have experience with male teachers. That was the start of it. So I started out teaching the general music in grades 1 through, I think it was 7 or 8. No, it was only 6. All around the town, because the district hadn't consolidated anyway. So Betty and I are here in town. We joined the Legion Band, and musically, I think that's where we started. We also sang with the choir in Watertown. But anyway,
Well, and the LaBelle Choraleers.
the LaBelle
were here in
Choraleers
town.
were doing great at
Yeah.
that time too. We all got involved musically there. I guess it just blossomed from there. Me, of course, once the district got consolidated, then all these various schools came in. We started hiring staff, and Rudy Timmel and I were not just the two only directors that were here anymore. The reputation of the band program started to just shoot like a star. It went really, really ballistic, and so we and with the Legion Band, Betty and I are very much involved there. I don't know, it was just like a harmonious kind of...
Actually, I would have to say too, it's the perfect community to be a part of in arts and culture. In doing some grant writing for the Festival of the Arts, did a bunch of research on the history of Oconomowoc, and we had a brass group, we had a band in town, we had artists selling original art on the streets the end of the 1800s. We had the port players, we had,
Right.
it was already very rich in culture and arts.
Oconomowoc had a band going back to 18, well, I have to be careful now, somewhere between 39 and 50. I know that they had sent out to New York and bought instruments and picked up a band. So it goes way back
Yeah.
to the start of the years. Yeah.
The history here is very, very rich in arts and culture.
Yeah. And then when Kay Stern was directing the choir, remember she had the women's choir, the
Yep, and the
music
music
club,
club.
an excellent group.
Right.
And so Betty sang with that. Oh, goodness.
Lots
It's
of
been
opportunities.
interwoven ever since we've been here, you know. And then coming up to, well, that's kind of, then outside of town, the choral, or the Bill Contra choir, we got involved in that. So, I don't know, it's been a musical career for both of us, so. There.
See? So I have two questions for you. So Dave, what you teach many of the band instruments, but what's your primary instrument, and you know, how is it that you had the others? And then Betty, you do vocal, but is vocal? Do you do keyboards, or and you're involved in the arts in the greater way, i.e., Festival of the Arts? So maybe a little.
Well, I should say that I was primarily self-taught. My father bought me a trumpet when I was in 6th grade or 7th, I don't recall. I had some lessons with a gal out there in the little village of Helenville where we lived on the farm. I started there and played in the Helenville Melody Band, which was an adult band, from the scratch. Then I went to a prep school where we didn't have lessons, but it was, they had a significant band made up of grades 9 through 16, was prep and college. What would that be? The 8 years, yeah. Anyway, so, and there I learned trumpet. I kept practicing and practicing, and then when it came time for my career, my aptitude test took a quirky turn, said I'm supposed to be a tree surgeon. My father, who thought about that for a while and decided that would not work for transportation, said, what was the second choice? And he said, I said, Dad, it's going to be a music teacher, and he agreed on that, so I wound up at UWM back in the days when it was Wisconsin or Milwaukee State Teachers College, where as a supposed trumpet major, when I was very, very unsure of myself, focused on clarinet. And so I learned the clarinet very well. In fact, wound up playing in the band in college, the college band and clarinet. And at the same time, I was learning all of the other instruments, and the Lord had given me a gift to pick them up very easily. And so I learned them all. In fact, I was teaching them in a music store when I was a junior in high school. So that was my start. So I came out here to Conamowoc, and then I went back to school and majored on French horn. So when you say, what's my major instrument, I'd have to say, well, probably trumpet. But when I went back to grad school and I took lessons with a trumpet teacher, he said, well, who have you all studied with? And I said, hey, you're going to believe this, but you're the first one. And so trumpet, I'd have to say, still lays in my major instrument. But clarinet and French horn are very, very dear to me. And so, and I teach them all. Right now, I play them all and teach them all. Some better than others.
So, in my involvement, originally was voice and wind instruments. I play all of the clarinets, the B flat, the alto, the bass, in the Legion band, and then did a lot of solo voice work with the Legion band. Also did some studying with Koehn, which was marvelous, and a couple of other gals actually through Ellen McDonald at Heartland Music. So pretty much I have now concentrated on vocal, and then of course David and I both have sung with bel canto, which has been a very fulfilling experience.
And we sang a lot of times with the Legion Band as duets. I think over the years, I can't imagine how many times we did that, where it would be, you know, summer concerts. Now there's always a soloist. Those days there wasn't always. And we filled that gap many times.
Lots of Memorial Day, Veterans Day,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, which we
For the
still
community.
doing.
Yep.
Yeah. The programs are listed, and you'll see those. The idea, this is all completed. The auditorium is coming together. Everything looks so incredibly new and everything, and we think, well, all these artists coming in, we have to have a green room, don't we? And they looked around for it, and we noticed this was slated as a storage room. We talked to the administration about it, and they agreed to let us use it for a green room. So the OPEF then, is part of the funds that we had generated, uses a lot of that money to furnish this room. It's beautiful inside, and that has been the green room for, well, ever since we started the series.
An interesting
observation about the Celebration Concert Series is the fact that it was all of the arts. We had, of course, the visual arts of Charles Dix. We had many of the musicians who were professionals and graduates of high school in orchestra, band, vocal. We also had an actor, Sean Sinitsky, who did some Shakespeare. So it truly was a series of all of the arts. And I might mention that Roberta was the second concert on our second series, Roberta Carpenter and Friends.
Yep, it is right there. And this also is Matt Bruno.
Right, for dance.
For the dance.
Mhm.
His concert was together with Charles Dix's display, so it was quite a colorful evening. He was extraordinary.
So we have Roberta here.
Yes.
There you go.
Well, Roberta.
Hey.
Our
There we go.
resident.
And we should say that this sign is just outside the old orchestra room and the choir room where, you know, those early years took place. So it's nice to come back and share these moments with you now, looking back and seeing all that you did. And we're back here where it all took place.
Yep. Won't forget your concert.
Thank you. And it was Roberta Carpenter and friends, and those friends
yeah.
are still here in our community and playing and teaching. And
This is cellist.
Marshall?
Marshall? No,
Jan
it's
Marshall.
Yeah, Jan.
yes,
Is she still around?
she is, and I visited with Jan about 2 weeks ago. Jan and I had a long history of playing Messiah together every year, and it was a favorite thing for hers.
Yeah.
And she and I taught, we did a chamber music clinic for youth in the community for about 14 years.
Great.
Yeah,
Yep.
and she was on that program, by the way.
Yes,
As a matter of fact, I should say this, Jan Marshall edited the cello parts for the Fanfare for Lake Country theme for cello. So,
Ah.
Oh, okay.
Great.
All right.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Anyway, that's great. Great to see this. Let's see, 1, 2,
Wonderful
3, 4,
students.
5, and 5, there's 25 concerts. That's amazing.
we're joined now by Mike Herro. Mike was shoulder to shoulder in the trenches with Dave and Betty as they worked on community projects that you'll recognize today.
Dave has been like a ripple, just seeing all these people he's been impactful for, kind of like a stone thrown in the water, because he has been also very impactful to people local and far away, because I hear from past students, and they're just so happy and so grateful that he was their teacher. You don't need to be able to read music to tell the fact that the Royals have been so impactful into the Oconomowoc community for years. And we are so grateful that you are shining stars for our community, and we wish you the very best. To Mr. and Mrs. Oconomowoc, thank you very much.
Ellen McDonald is somebody who has known Dave and Betty for a good long while. She was a student of Dave's. She has a special story to tell about growing up, and she's been in our community in the music field for many years.
I have been fortunate to know the Royal family my entire life. We were neighbors. I was the babysitter on Saturday nights when Dave and Betty would go to the symphony. I was a member of the band of Oconomowoc Junior High Wind Ensemble. Had the great experience of going to Interlaken. Thank you. That changed my life. And farther on, I've gotten to know Dave and Betty as adults and wonderful people. And I'm just thankful to be a part of this. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but Julie, Jenny, Renata, please give your parents big hugs because they're really cool people. Thank you so much.
We're here at the home of Pauline Bemis, and we're here with Dave Ferris, and they know Dave and Betty from way back and have a couple of stories to tell us.
All right.
Hi, I joined the band in 1960. Rudy Timmel was directing, and he directed for about 4 or 5 years, and then Walt Stamstead from Watertown directed. Well, in 1969, Dave Reul took over. And in fact, Dave had been playing in the band, and so did Betty, of course. And the Reuls and I came to Oconomowoc just about the same time. Well, we had a really fun time with Dave directing. He also had wonderful concerts, and he selected great music. And he was directing the band in 1977 when we won first place nationally for the American Legion band competition. And everyone was very happy about that. And the band went on lots and lots of trips. We went to the Warrens Cranberry Festival several times. And the band would march in the parade, and they would pay us for marching. And the band would go to King, Wisconsin, play at the Veterans Home. And now Dave's going to tell some more things about the fun times we had.
Well, we certainly had fun in the Legion band for me most of the years. Of course, I knew Dave originally. He was my 6th grade band director. Got me started playing the tuba. And he was also my junior high band director. And then about the time I was finishing up junior high, I joined the American Legion band in 1968. That was 1 year before Dave became the band director. And oh boy.
Tell about the horse band.
Dave, I participated, and Dave did also. We had a mounted band in the Milwaukee circus parades. Horseback riding and playing. Not all that easy.
Especially with tuba.
Yeah,
Yes.
No, I went to one rehearsal with my cornet, but I sneezed so much from all the horses that someone had to take me home, and that was the end of my career for horse band.
This photo was taken when I was in 7th grade at the Oconomowoc Junior High School. I was in Dave Reul's band. One of my classmates, Mike Newfer, and I decided to come up with a little prank pose, and I put my tuba at the back of Dave Reul's VW microbus, and that's how it came out. So he had a jet-propelled vehicle at that time.
Dave, what year was that we went to Boston?
We went to the National Legion Convention in 1980, Boston, Massachusetts.
Yes, and we had the Legion Color Guard, and we had a Gals Color Guard, and I think we took second there, but it was a really, really fun trip.
Dave was very good as a motivator, as a band director. He would explain the music and do a little demonstrating, and yeah, you could have played it better this way and demonstrating that way. And then he put us to work a little bit too. When we were in school, here's your weekly sheet. You're supposed to keep track of your practice hours, and you were supposed to fill up those hours during the week of practicing. So, and he was good at selecting interesting and somewhat challenging music too, which that also helped bring out the better quality of playing.
Yes, and we used to practice year-round, except for 2 weeks at Christmas, and that really helped. And Dave always chose music that the people enjoyed playing also, and that we could learn something from. And it was, everyone looked forward to going to the rehearsals. And then in those years, we would go out and have a drink after rehearsals, and everyone looked forward to that too, because it was, then you got to know the band members a lot better. Yes?
Yeah. Socializing time. Dave would
Yeah.
come to the end of a piece when we're rehearsing and, Doc, what's the score? That was all the games, the Packers, the Bucks, and the Brewers, or the Braves, of course, too.
Yes.
When it was the Braves.
But Doc Hansen played
I think
really
he-
well.
I think he did that at some concerts, too.
Yes. They seemed to be able to play while listening to various games.
I participated with the Milwaukee Circus Parade Conamock mounted band on horses 3 times in 71, 2, and 3. And one of our practice sessions, a photographer from the Orchestra Freeman was there taking some photos and getting some stories. And there's a couple of pictures I have here of myself. One, I'm looking at my horn on the ground trying to think, well, let's see, can I get that myself without having to grab it and step way up on the horse with all that extra weight? And then the second picture, I thought, yeah, maybe I can have the horse walk close to the horn. I'll lean over and pick up the horn. Yeah, not quite. So someone had to pick it up for me.
I have so many memories from being in the Legion Band for 58 years, and some of the very best memories were of Dave and Betty Reul, how much they added to the Legion Band and how they would sing together beautifully for our concerts. And I wish them all the best in the whole world.
I've only been in the band a mere 50 years, so I don't have quite as many memories as Pauline has, but mine are all equally terrific. And Dave really helped the band grow and stay strong, and actually improved during his years. Just all sorts of good things that Dave would do to help the band do well. Dave and Betty, thanks a lot for many, many years and many, many hours of working with me and the community and the Legion Band. We were neighbors about a mile apart for a few years too. And best of luck into the next years.
Hi, I'm Pauline Bemis, and I've been in the Legion Band for 58 years. And I have so many memories of playing concerts here, especially with Dave and Betty Reul, and our wonderful post-91 Legion members who present the colors for all of our concerts. And the Legion has supported our band and sponsored our band for many, many years, ever since there was an American Legion about 1919. Right, Dave?
Yes, that's, I believe that's the year the American Legion was formed. I've been in the Commonwealth American Legion Band for nearly as long, 50 years for me. Lots of performances, playing some different instruments. I started on tuba, and then recent years I've been playing percussion. We played here, had pretty good luck with weather. We've been rained out a few times. And sometimes we're playing and it's uncomfortable. We get the outside weather. We have to deal with that.
Yes, let me say one thing about weather. Dave was directing and a tornado hit. And Bob Ludwig could see that there was a tornado coming. Well, not only did we have a band concert, but we had a ice cream social, and we had a bake sale. And Bob said, everyone take cover in the back of the band shell, and we did. There were cake pans flying all over and in the lake, and everyone got very wet and soaked, and then we had to cancel the concert.
The band noticeably improved when Dave started directing. He was a good promoter. Got more players. The numbers kind of swelled, and our audiences grew also because we had some very interesting programs.
Yes, and Dave worked really well with our Legion post and made sure that we always had Legion members here listening to the concert and presenting the colors. And they would help us, like for July 4th concerts, they'd help us with lighting fireworks and getting people up on the stage with large sparklers.
A big thank you to Dave and Betty for their many years of performing and working with the American Legion Band. We had lots of success, lots of fun, and lots of memories. Some of them are funny and some of them are kind of strange. You may be hearing some traffic noise in the background. We have lived with that with our summer concerts all the time. And in the earlier days when the trains would blow their whistles, we could hear train whistles too, every once in a while.
Yes, I remember all the fun times and the very musical times with Dave and Betty, and all the wonderful concerts here in the band shell, which is now the Rodee Memorial Band Shell.
We're joined now by Dr. Pat Neudecker. Pat is a former superintendent of schools for the Oconomowoc School District and was a visionary who helped bring about the Oconomowoc Art Center. The Neudecker Auditorium is named after Pat, and she worked with Dave and Betty and has stories to tell. Here's Pat.
We're outside at the Tri-Club Plaza, which was initiated actually by the Kiwanis Club and quickly grew into a much larger project, including the Oconomowoc Lions, Kiwanis, and Rotary, working together to fund the construction of this beautiful outdoor space. We've always been so proud of this space, but I'm most proud that our students and our patrons, every time they're here, see the name Tri-Club Plaza and recognize the three clubs that work together to make this happen.
Greetings. I'm Pat Neudecker. I'm the former superintendent of schools of the Oconomowoc Area School District, and I had the pleasure of knowing Dave and Betty Reul professionally and personally, and I'm here tonight to share this wonderful award and read a tribute to them. Music is magical. It gives us memories and connects people, just like Dave and Betty do. Dave and Betty have shared their love of music and their many talents with so many of us, and I, for one, am thankful to know them as friends. I've known Dave and Betty for almost 20 years, and I know how much they've done for music, for so many of us, and for our entire community. It will be hard to capture the many notes which have filled the score for so many years. I first met Dave when he was a band teacher, and I was a new principal at Oconomowoc Middle School in the year 1999. His reputation was one of talent, quality, and dedication, and I soon learned of the many contributions he had made to students and to our school. His concerts were glorious, and he filled our former old auditorium with people and amazing sounds. I was inspired by his energy. It seemed like he was always on the move and always full of life. He mastered the art of teaching, and his high expectations, wisdom, and nurturing ways made our students flourish. I had only been at the middle school for a few weeks when Dave asked if I would like to come to their house for dinner.
I was new to Oconomowoc and somewhat alone, as I had begun my principal role while my husband Kurt remained in our former location and prepared for the move. I was thrilled to be invited, and I remember thinking how kind that invitation was. Well, little did I know that that one evening would create such a lasting impression on me, one of graciousness, warm hospitality, and genuine compassion, not to mention an amazing meal, great conversation, and of course, Betty. When I met Betty, I was instantly drawn to her. Bubbly, friendly, and so interesting. She has a way of making you feel like you're special. Her voice lifts your spirit, and her attention to you is as if you were the only person in the room at the moment. She is an original at being in the moment. She can converse about lofty ideas and also simple girl stuff, in addition to her laugh, which is contagious. I could tell that she was a planner, someone who got things done. And for all of those reasons, I wanted a little more of Betty in my life. So through the years, Kurt and I got to know the Royals more. We attended events together, worked on projects, and my fond memories include a school field trip to Chicago for musical theater, numerous concerts, the Waukesha Symphony Board and Gala, Festival of the Arts, Bel Canto, and of course, working together on the Oconomowoc Arts Center referendum and the many needed enhancements. It is fitting that this award be presented in our glorious Oconomowoc Arts Center, which represents so much of the work and the contributions the Royals have made. The students who have been nurtured by Dave, our understanding and appreciation for high-quality musical literature, the loyal Royals in the audience of so many performances, the artist's screen room, the bronze sculpture Melody, and even the lobby furniture have all been touched and made possible through the talent, dedication, and leadership of this amazing couple. The royal footprint is all around us. Dave and Betty are being honored for their many contributions to music, but I would also include their many other contributions as well. Let their living example of being kind, generous, faithful, loving, and dedicated to purposes well beyond themselves be a lesson for all of us. The Royals are a magical couple. They've given us so much, and they've touched us and connected us in so many ways. I personally thank Dave and Betty, and I know our community joins me in recognizing them, thanking them, and congratulating them on this well-deserved award. Thank you, Dave and Betty.
the Chatfield Award sign that hangs in the Oconomowoc Arts Center lobby. It's near the right entry door to the hall and bears the names of those people who received the award, as well as our sponsors, and a little bit about Frank S. Chatfield. There is a page on the Oconomowoc Chamber Orchestra website about the Chatfield Award. You'll see the PDFs of the letters that were written from the mayor or Dr. Neudecker. You'll see the links to the videos that are on YouTube, and we will continue to update the Chatfield Award page with the latest Chatfield Award information and presentations. If you would like to stay in touch with the Oconomowoc Chamber Orchestra and know about the latest events, the best way to do that is to receive the e-newsletter. The e-newsletter is sent out, about once a month, and you can sign up for it on the Oconomowoc Chamber Orchestra homepage of the website. There's a little form that you put your email in, and you'll then be able to receive it. We also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/OCONORCH, OCONORCH, and you're welcome to join us for that as well. We thank our business sponsors and advertisers and supporters that make the Chatfield Award possible, as well as the Oconomowoc Chamber Orchestra. You'll see now the advertisements and the supporters' names. We ask that you support them in the same way they supported us. We're so appreciative of their support, and if you would like to support us, we have a GoFundMe page. There's a donation page on the orchestra's website. We welcome and appreciate your support for the orchestra.